All right, Michael Chandler, good to see you, man. How you feeling?
Good to see you. I'm doing good. It's the day before weigh-in, so exactly 24 hours from now, I will be weighed in and freedom towards the fight. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, let's let people behind the curtain here because this is Thursday morning. I think it's 9 o'clock where you are. I mean,
Yep.
we don't normally get to speak to the athletes this close to a weigh-in. I'm assuming this means the weight cut's going well and you're feeling pretty good with yourself.
The weight cut it has this is the best weight cut I think I've ever had in my entire life thus far. So it's been really good. And it's just a testament to discipline and just sticking to something. I think there's kind of this inverse relationship with the older you get, a little bit more diligent you have to be. You have to start a little bit earlier. You have to be extra, kind of extra over cautious when it comes to the diet, the calorie restrictions, the little bit of extra cardio, a little bit of extra work. Because my body's heavier now, probably 15 pounds heavier now than when I started this career, and 20 something pounds heavier than high school when I first started competing in the 150 something pounds. So just got to be a little bit more diligent with it, and the weight is coming off really well.
Let's talk a little bit about your career because you bring up the kind of the longevity of what you've been doing in fight sports. So I was at a gym last week, and on the wall they got this TV screen and they just play random fights and whatever and little montages and things. And they were showing you against Eddie Alvarez, which I believe was in 2011, and this was a hell of a fight. Did you still think you'd be going this far in your career at the top level in the sort of fights that you've become famous for? These extremely exciting, violent scraps.
I never really try to think too much into the future. But yeah, I mean, I knew I was going to make a career out of it. But by that time, I had just won the Bellator tournament and then was going to get the opportunity to fight a top five guy in the world in Eddie Alvarez. And I thought I was going to be able to beat him. I did beat him, and it worked out well. And that was really the catalyst that had really catapulted me to um, just a career of success thus far. And I've had my ups and downs. I went 688 days without winning a fight just about a year or two after that. So not a lot of guys have had to go through that. So I think it seasoned me and fashioned me into who I am today. And man, I feel like I'm living the dream. I feel like I'm in my second career. My first career was outside the UFC. Now I got a second career inside the UFC on the biggest platform possible. And man, it's just a huge blessing.
Yeah, heading back into Madison Square Garden as well. I'm assuming the first time you fought there, walking through the halls, the goosebumps were up and you were feeling tingly. It's a special place to be. Is that going to be different this time because you're used to what that's going to feel like?
I think so. I think I'm not gonna, last time I was there, I don't think it was necessarily the atmosphere until I actually got inside the octagon and then couldn't hear my coaches. It was just so loud in there. Obviously, me and Justin Gaethje started swinging from at the first sound of the bell, and it turned into mayhem.
Mm.
So this time I'm going to get my hand raised for sure. I'm going to put pressure on Dustin Poirier. I'm going to make him second guess himself. I think everybody thinks I'm fast. Everybody thinks I'm powerful. Everybody thinks I'm strong, but they don't quite know the extent of those three attributes until they actually get in there and have to negotiate and navigate the exchanges. And when I get my hands locked around you, or I hit you with something, or you see a punch coming, but you don't think it's as fast as it is. And I'm just going to keep my foot on the gas just like I always do. And I think I go out there and finish him.
Mm, mm. One really good thing about speaking to a fighter this late in fight week is that you've actually spent some time around your opponent. We saw you on the stage with Dustin last night. There was always going to be a lot of respect, but let's be honest, Mike, you two quite like each other, right? I mean, you two are going to be friends for years to come when this fight's done. You just need to get the tough business out of the way first, right?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think if you put a list of the top five guys in my weight class who I could see myself actually having a cordial relationship with moving forward past fighting, he's definitely a guy who'd be on that list. He's a great ambassador for the sport inside the octagon, outside the octagon. I know exactly who he is because he's been
Mm.
fighting all these years in the UFC. He knows exactly who I am because he's been following me since Bellator, and then obviously seeing my run inside the UFC. We know we're both up against a test, and we're going to go out there and compete. Madison Square Garden, everyone there and everyone watching on the pay per view will be the beneficiaries of two guys who love to go out there and scrap.
We always know how well you clearly prepare for your fights, not just in the way you're going to fight, but also how you're going to rock the microphone as soon as the fight's finished. Have you got your speech ready? Do you know what you're going to say on Saturday night? Yeah, you go.
I do. I do. I know exactly what I'm saying, who I'm saying it to, and how it's going to make everybody feel. So I'm excited about it. That's one of my favorite parts of this, and I think it's somewhat to be expected now. People expect that from me, and I'm going to give the fans what they want.
All right, let me just prize a little bit in here. If let me play matchmaker for a second. You come through Saturday night in spectacular fashion. The UFC come to you and say, Mike, you're at the top of the lightweight rankings now. You can either fight Islam Makhachev at the start of next year, let's say March, April time, or you can wait a couple of months. You can go up to 170 and you can welcome Conor McGregor back into the UFC. You've got the belt, or you've got what presumably would be the biggest money fight possible. Which one are you more interested in?
That's a hard question, but it's not even close. I think I would fight for the title.
Yeah.
I've been training hand-to-hand combat for 22 years now with the hopes of becoming the number one guy in the country. When I was wrestling, it never happened. Now, fighting over the last 14 years, I've always wanted to become the number one fighter in the world, and that hasn't happened yet either. So I've got to attain that goal, and why not have my cake and eat it too? Why not go beat Islam in March or April and then welcome Conor back in July? We can do both. So, if I'm the champion, I don't know if he gets the title shot, obviously. So that might hold things up, but I got to win the title first. It's my destiny. I truly believe that, and I want to make good on my promise. I told these guys I was going to come in here and be champion, and I made a promise to my wife and son, and we're going to keep on heading toward that goal.
What do you think Conor McGregor might be looking for in his next opponent? Because if you do what you said you do, you go through Dustin Poirier, you go and fight Islam, you take the title, that might not be the perfect opponent for him to come back, right? You don't want to scare him off, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think he's scared though, man. I really don't. I think, I've got some inside information as far as we're close to his camp in certain areas, or I've heard people talk about his mentality toward Khabib. I mean, Khabib was the scariest guy in the division for sure. Dominated people, mauled people. Conor loved that. Conor wanted that fight. Conor reveled in that. And I think he wants the tough fights. I think he's not going to shy away from tough fights. I truly, honestly think that who's the biggest pay-per-view draw in his mind, So I don't think he's afraid to take an extra hard fight based upon the potential sales of a huge blockbuster pay-per-view. I think Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor, two of the most exciting, most explosive guys that the sport has ever seen, stepping into the octagon with Conor with us coming back at him coming back at 170, all the questions surrounding his leg, all the questions surrounding his motivation, all the questions surrounding his comeback, matching him up with the most exciting guy on the planet, man, we sell 1 billion pay-per-views.
It's an easy poster, right? You got the kind of the box office pound for pound king and the most pound for pound exciting fighter we've seen in the UFC in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to tell you, man,
I think it works out perfectly.
You have got that appeal, right? So my girlfriend, bless her, she has to watch UFC because I'm watching it all the time, and she's coming in and out of the room and she's picking up on things. She knows your name. She knows your name really well because she came in while we were having breakfast when you were fighting Dan Hooker. The knockout, the somersault off the cage, the call out. the package you bring and the excitement you bring, you can see why that would gel so well with Conor's mass kind of global appeal, which is on a completely different level, right? So you passed the
Yeah,
girlfriend test, basically, Mike.
yeah. I mean, I think it just makes a ton of sense. I mean, there's a lot of guys that he can come back and fight that might be a little bit of an easier fight. Um, but when it comes to pay-per-view blockbuster, big numbers, I think that's where I'm going to be, especially after I dispatch of Dustin Poirier, like I think I'm going to on Saturday night. No guarantees, obviously. Could go out there and lose, who knows? But I think I think that, like you said, I without sounding overly narcissistic, I do think I bring something different to the I think the whole package of mixed martial arts, as you said. And Connor would be a great opponent. I want the big stages. I want the big
Mm,
lights, the bright lights, the big platforms. I want the legacy type of fights as well. Yes, I want the title, but I want the legacy type of fights as well. And fighting Conor McGregor, and then him coming back. I'm also going to be right in that range, that number 3, number 4 range, whatever I'm going to be ranked. Whenever I beat Dustin Poirier, that him coming back, if he beats me, he can get a title shot right away, straight away.
mm.
After he beats me. So there's a lot of great opportunities and a lot of great possibilities, and the fans will be the beneficiary because me and Connor's explosion in that first round, especially, we see if we can finish each other. If not, we see who sinks and we see who swims.
Mike, thanks for your time. Thanks for being a good sport as well, man. Enjoy the rest of
You
fight
got
week.
it.